start? All right, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my masterclass today. I will do it in English, is that okay? Yeah, I think that's the only language most people understand. And we will have 4 violinists today who will perform each different pieces. Before we start the 4 sessions with the 4 candidates, I would just like to say a few words, general things. The first thing is that, as you all know, in music, competitions are not important. There are many famous violinists, including Yehudi Menuhin himself, who never won a competition. He never even participated in one, and still he became world famous and was one of the most important artists of the 20th century. So, very much in contrast to the world of sports, competitions are not necessary for music, and certainly have nothing to do with the purpose of music. But why do we still organize one? It is because for many young violinists, it is a stage they can prepare towards. And I mean, if you're a young violinist, you know, you're 10 years old, 12-year-old, 16-year-olds, most of them don't have a concert every week. And if they don't, it is actually nice to have some goal they can work towards, and that is what a competition could be. Of course, the pity is that you prepare so many pieces, and some of them are, you know, out in the first round, so they cannot even perform some of the pieces they have practiced in public. As a juror, I feel extremely uncomfortable and sorry each time we have to sort of reduce the numbers of people. And I can tell you all that with this competition, because we also have the pre-selection, we only invite out of, I don't know, 400 people who applied, only about 45 came. So you're already the top 10% of all the applicants. And I can assure you that almost without exception, everybody who played this week in Geneva is an excellent violinist, and everyone was very, very talented. Okay, so then you're talking about you having 40 extremely talented young violinists who all have plenty of technique for their age and all that. So why can you even reduce it? Okay, well, I mean, we can maybe one day have a competition where everybody plays until the finals. But there are some realistic reasons why we had to reduce the numbers. And a lot of the times it becomes a matter of taste, or it could become, you know, all kinds of aspects. Also how good somebody played for himself that day, you know. And I wanted to all let you know, I myself, for example, when I was 18 years old, I won the 3rd prize of the Carl Nielsen competition in Denmark. It was a quite big competition. At the finals, you have to even play 2 violin concertos in a row without break. So I played the Beethoven violin concerto and the Carl Nielsen violin concerto with orchestra on live radio in the finals. But anyway, I was only 18 when I won that 3rd prize there. And only 3 months before that competition, I participated at another big competition, Cologne, and I got out of the first round. Yeah, okay, kicked out. So I couldn't even play the 2nd round, and that competition had 4 rounds. I was not even in the semi-finals. And the interesting thing is, the person who won 2nd prize in Cologne and at the Carl Nielsen competition was the same woman. She's today, I think, the concert mistress of the Gewandhaus Orchestra in Leipzig. Very accomplished musician. So she won 2nd prize in both competitions. I won the 3rd prize in one competition, and I got kicked out of the first round on the other. And that was not because one competition was unfair. It was not a political reason why somebody, you know, kicked me out, although they thought I was good. No, I know exactly the reasons. I didn't play well that day in Cologne. And also, I was given the advice then from my teacher, instead of being angry and going home, listen to every other candidate who went through to the next round and try to analyze every aspect, you know, why somebody else might have been a little bit better than you in something. So I used the next 10 days, and I was not very happy, but I stayed in Cologne. I heard every performance. I decided to be like a juror, so I made notes on every candidate. I wrote down everything bad and good about everybody else, and I analyzed, you know, and then I had 3-4 months to work again. And I was, I think, so much better, you see, only 3 or 4 months later, to be able to win 3rd prize of a big competition. So things are like that. It's all relative, so please don't forget. Please don't be so disappointed in case you didn't get to the next round in this competition, because the level is extremely high. And also the ages. You know, we have 11-year-olds competing against 15-year-olds, and we have 16-year-olds competing against 21-year-olds. I mean, how fair can you be? You see, so this is all very relative. That's the first thing I wanted to say. And the second thing I wanted to say, this is quite funny, but in this competition, like in every other competition, so many minutes were wasted on tuning the violin on stage. So come the candidate, you know, they get an A, and then you know what happens. Today, we are in a very lucky position that everybody has a mobile phone, right? Yes? Smartphone, like iPhone, this kind of thing. And you can download apps. And you can download apps which give you an A in 440, 41, 42, 43. So when you go ever again to another competition, or you give a recital in a concert, or you play with orchestra, find out before, even the day before, what the tuning is of the piano you're playing with. If it is 442, you put it in your app 442. So you're backstage, you put your phone out, and you have the perfect A. So you can already tune perfectly off stage, okay? And you should do it as close as possible to the time you enter the stage, backstage. You do it perfect, everything should be perfect, you come on stage. Yes, sometimes the humidity or whatever, the temperature of the hall is extremely different from backstage, so you have to correct maybe one string. But this whole thing, you have to completely retune all 4 strings once you're on stage. This is something to be avoided at any cost. And before, in the old days when there was no iPhone or whatever, this was more difficult maybe to get the right A. But now this is possible, okay? So you can go before and check the piano. This was just 2 pieces of general advice, one about philosophical and how to see about the competition in general, and another one, a little advice on tuning. Now we welcome the first of the 4, Julian Walder. You're going to play the Ravel, eh? Cigar. Thank you. How old are you?
I'm 17.
Julian is 17, and we both could speak German because I'm based in Vienna, but we'll speak English so that everybody can understand. towards the end, just to finish.
Yes.
Yeah, just from the top. No, actually, just from there. Because I want to spend talking a lot about. I know it's a pity you can't play the whole piece, but just yeah. No, just from the. Or really already there, so toward the end, somewhere here, wherever you want. Yeah, okay. 21 or something, or no? It's a 20. It's a 20. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. 20. Right. Sorry, I didn't, let you play that, but we have only half an hour or 25 minutes, and well, you've already prepared it this well. This would have been probably what you would have played in the second round, right? Yeah. You've already made a lot of thoughts and a lot of work on the piece. Yes, So if you, with your permission, I'm not going to talk so much about the interpretation of the Ravel, but general things about how you play the violin. And this is also interesting, hopefully, for everybody. In every day when you practice, whatever many hours you decide to practice. Let's say somebody, a young person, practice an average of 2.5 hours a day. An average, that means certain days maybe a bit more, certain days a bit less. Or it could be 3 hours. But anyway, some people make the mistake of spending all 3 hours to study different pieces, okay? Because there's a lot of work every day also possible. General work, how to become a better violinist without a particular work, okay? So this is about how to hold a bow, how to hold the instrument, how to, And with you, for example, you're very musical. You've studied this piece well. There's one of the most important things for a violinist to have a good intonation. Intonation is not a matter of the hands. It's mainly that matter of ears, how careful you listen while you practice, and you have good intonation, so we have no problem on that. The first general impression I get from you when I even watch you play is that there's something a little bit stiff about it, okay? And think about it when you are going to become a very good boxer. Boxing. You already know from the way they move, a good boxer. When somebody comes a bit stiff, they're never going to be very good at it, And it's the same thing with violin. So, of course, the violin, the bow, goes from, either in this direction or the other direction. So it's A or B. But in general, your body is a little bit too straight A, B, A, B, you know, if only these two movements, either down bow or up bow, instead of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not good to go into knee bends, you know, we don't want that. You know, we are not boxing, we're of course. And, but still, you know, maybe some people will watch a movie of Heifetz, you know, he always stands there and don't move. He could do it, it's good. But for most people, you know, which don't have his particular style, it's you know, when you, especially when you're playing loudly, yeah, it's better to have a little bit more roundness in your movement, yeah. And the thing is, I usually, when I try, there's one very stupid thing about the violin as opposed to the piano. You see, the piano is very symmetrical for the body because you can sit and the left hand and the right hand, okay, they're playing different notes, but they're basically doing the same thing. And even the cello, you know, you sit and it's basically both arms are doing similar things. It looks quite parallel, you know, right arm and left arm. And with some bad luck, the violin could be, you know, extremely a twisted matter, yeah? So you've got the violin, and then you've got the hand, and then you can reach, you twist, and then there's this. Okay, so how asymmetrical can this be? And anything which is not symmetrical for your body is less efficient. So when I try to teach posture, I always try to say, going back to boxing. I love boxing, and I don't like it, but it has many parallels. And then, you know, can you just do this? Okay, and then can you flip the violin over without changing that?
Yeah.
Exactly. Don't change that, and just keep still more or less that way. Exactly, flipping over. Yeah. And then you just put the bow on this. Okay, so at the moment, no, this is not the end position, of course, but it's possible to place the violin by being right and left, completely symmetrical, right? Okay, so it's possible to do that, and then you make a few adjustments from there. Then, and try to be really free, and try to look as much as possible just like normal, you know, to the center, not to the left, not to the right. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Okay. Yeah, and then try to play. Yeah. Exactly, yeah, right, yeah. It's already better. And the other thing is, you know, when you go, you know, it always this, whatever you do, it's not good if a movement. This is like the machine, a good machine, like even the train. Yeah, they make round movements. So if it's a machine just going this way, it's never going to be smooth. So try to, maybe you can go down this one, up and exactly, yeah. And another general thing is that this is, of course, my theory, but it's never very, very healthy for the body and also for the neck to put in the elbow too much in. But then, in order to have good technique, and especially to be able to reach high notes on the G strings, and you know, again, you would think you need to put this in. Of course, you need to put in a little bit, but especially in the first position, I mean, either from there, people either put in to have a more comfortable position for the fourth finger, or you can try to just twist the wrist in. It's that movement here, just with the wrist. And again, you know, if you maybe if anyone interested, you can try to do it. Can you all wait a minute? Can you all take the hand like this? Sorry, you have to briefly. You can do it too, yeah. Although it does not apply to the piano. Sorry, where do we put this? You can hold it. Yes, that's great. Thank you very much. And the bow we put here. Right. Okay. So we put it like this, yeah, with the hands who look like it, and without moving the elbow. Don't move the elbow. Try to just twist outwards. Okay, and it's only what's important is the left hand, not the right hand. But yeah, it's this twist, and it's a stretch like any stretch. You know, I mean, if you do this, most people can't touch the ground. If they do it every day for even 1 month, most people can touch the ground. So if you do this without changing the without putting it in. This stays straight, yeah, not this way, but also not this way. It stays more or less straight. And first you put the hand looking at you, and then you try to twist it. Okay. And with this twist, you can play the violin very comfortably. So it will be like this, and then you just twist. It will be possible to, So, and then what happens is if you just twist here, and if you learn the stretch, this has no strain on your body, whereas putting in too much of your elbow inside, this is a strain on your entire system, which can be avoided. That's one thing. And of course, the other thing is you have relatively already with your 17 years longer fingers. Some people have shorter fingers. So because you have longer fingers, you can afford to have a little bit of this angle, okay? And this is another thing which is ultimately not great for technique when you have very fast things to play, because, you have, I'm exaggerating, yeah? He's not as extreme as that, but when you have this angle with the hand position, obviously this is much more strain. If you have to do a trill on the fourth finger, whatever, and so the mechanics between pressing the first finger and the fourth finger becomes very different, and this is not good. So when you have twisted more, then this becomes much more parallel to the violin, and basically what you do with the first finger, it almost becomes the same. And that becomes very similar, sorry, you can have the violin back now.
Thank you.
To the piano, actually. You see, and for the piano, nobody gets pinky tendinitis, normally. There are exceptions, but most pianists, because they basically have the key at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they have this position. So if you can try to do as similar as possible. So all you need to do is twist this a little more in. Yeah. Without putting the elbow in, because if you put the elbow in, you have strain. So the elbow should, just think of that, just hanging, natural hanging, and then a little more, yeah. So these are two things, which you could try to work on.
Okay.
A little bit, and it won't hurt. And don't, also, most of the technical improvements like that, you don't need to do it so many hours, every day or anything like that. In fact, you have your habits, but it's like taking an antibiotics. It's just like one medicine, or or let's say the stretch. If you say we're saying if you want to touch the floor, you do the stretch every day. 5 minutes every day is probably enough. If you do 5 minutes of stretching every morning, after 1 month, it is a big difference. So, and for the rest of the day, you will do exactly as usual. You don't need to walk differently or anything like that. So it's also for the violin. So you can just 5 minutes or maybe 10 minutes, just to a scale instead of just with a different position. Okay. And then the rest of the practice you can still do the normal way as usual. But if you do this every day, maybe you can do it 3 times 5 minutes, once in the morning, once lunchtime, once for dinner. And then slowly your body adjusts, and then it becomes maybe more comfortable. So a lot of these changes, you don't need to do something very extreme. Yes, as regard to the piece, but I think in your case, what I felt is it's like I feel that of course because you're young, you don't have problems, pain or anything like that, but the whole body still doesn't look quite free. And if you're more free, then you can also have a bit more punch in your sound as well. And the other thing is to get more colors out, yeah? I would like to do, can you just do the very beginning, the first line, and then the number 1 line? Try to, when you go, at the moment it's a bit, it loses, you know. Just try to keep the tension and think of embracing something as opposed to standing open. It's like da-da, or ta-ta, you know, it's just it's also, and a lot of the music, you know, it's first you have to have the concept. It's like talking, you're giving a speech, you know, and or acting as well. Just try to more. You know, center of the body. Exactly. And actually, for doing this sort of things, you know, actually also putting the violin a little bit in helps. Because I think it's quite boring if you always play in a certain position. It's always the same thing. Some people, some young musicians have to sort of throughout the whole piece, you know, the same position. I think it could be different. And then you've got the completely different, the piano espressivo dolce. So how do you do that? Okay, great. First of all, okay, the first thing in the beginning was forte, this is piano. Don't do that with Beethoven or Bach. Exaggeration, it's not very compatible. But with Ravel, with anything from the Romantic period, most of the time it's more effective to exaggerate any expressive differences. Okay, so, and especially here, you're completely alone. So this could be half the sound. It's a piano. Okay. Much less. Okay, now second question. When you want to play something softer, what do you do? Okay, so there are many ways of. So what can you do?
Maybe less weight.
Less weight. Speed. Less bow speed.
And contact point on.
Contact point could be more on the fingerboard. What else?
Vibrato maybe, but it's
that's no. But what can you do with your right hand to reduce? So you said bow speed. When it's lower, it's softer. Then pressure, you said. Pressure and weight is sort of the same thing. Okay. Then you can go nearer the bridge, or you can go away from the bridge. What else?
I don't know.
There's one aspect of this which most people forget. You can play with less hair. Okay. So you play either. You use all this white hair, or you just twist the bow. And that one, it's actually the most important for changing color. I mean, not the most, but it's one of them. You know, because if you play, and in fact, I come from Vienna. I mean, I'm Japanese, but I was raised in Vienna. I was educated in Vienna, and the Viennese violinists, including Chrysler, one of the most famous ones, they're actually quite known in history for their sweet sound. And I can assure you that most Viennese violinists, when they play piano, they start using less hair, you know. This is by having very little hair, you know, and so, for example, here you can already, instead, you should first of all reduce the bow speed, I use the bat, that's enough, you know? And you played the piano with a full bow still.
Yes.
That's impossible, you know, you got, this is full bow, and then you've got suddenly, okay, try. With a very little bow. Okay, and it's still not quite working because when you reduce the weight and also the hair, What you need is a little, again, more bow speed or whatever.
Yeah.
But in your case, I think what now it didn't work because the pressure was too much still for what you were trying to do. Try to really, really, no, from here only. Try really, it's a bit exaggerated, but. Exactly, yeah. And of course, where you play in the bow, you know, the contact point, you have got the general rule that it is closer to the bridge is louder and so on. But the other thing is, of course, when you're in a high position, you need to be relative. You can never play high position and completely sul tasto. It doesn't work. Whereas here, if it was first position, I can play really almost. But here, when it's higher up, you need to come nearer to the bridge, you know? Okay. So, again, going, you know, we can't do the whole piece, you know, but it's general things, yeah? So, for if you can remember, for you, you know, the one thing was the left-hand position, a little bit, you know? The other thing is sort of the whole body, yeah? To try to be a little bit rounder in your movements, you know, how you stand, how you, and also the bow, going down and going up. I mean, there are different techniques. You know, my technique is that I really, really try to do a circle in every bow. Some people don't need to do it, you know, exactly like that. I don't believe in just one solution to problems. But there are some general things that, you know, if it's completely straight, A, B, you know, most likely it's going to be somehow stiff. So, you know, try to be more rounder and make eights or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have to draw an 8 all day, you know, that's better than if you have to go. Yeah. it's yeah, exactly, yeah. And then, yeah, you could work a lot more on bow distribution, both, you know, when you have got you know, when you want to be expressive with smaller sound with piano, and that can be said. Actually, about 80% of the young violinists, when they play the violin, they use too much bow when it's piano. I mean, most of the time, you know, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You know, this is piano, and this is just a few notes. You know, why use the whole bow? Much less could be enough, you know, and all that, and then suddenly you have more bow and so on. So this will be a good example of where you can really try experiment with. Yeah, and so on. Yeah. Sorry, I have to go to the next one.
So thank you.
But
Thanks
all the best. Okay, thank you. There you go. It's very good. Number 2 today. Hey, hello. Were you actually listening?
No.
Oh, you weren't? Oh, okay, what a pity, because I said, but I almost have the things which apply to anyone. But I will repeat it very quickly. Yeah, actually, also for the other kids, you know, warming up is one thing, but this is not a concert, so I think it will be more interesting to watch. So, in case. Anyway, nice to meet you. Hi, I could be speaking with Sumina German or Japanese, but I will speak English so that everybody else understands. So, what are you going to play?
I'm going to be performing or playing Mozart's Third Violin Concerto.
Okay, all right, okay. I will probably not let you play the entire movement, but interrupt so that we have more time to work on it, okay? But please start.
Shall I just do a few bars in there?
Sure, sure. that's enough. Yeah. Thank you very much. It sounds very beautiful. You played that also in the first round, right?
Yes,
Yes. Actually, no, I remember it now because you started playing very much, and already you did a few accents, ugly accents. You did in the competition. You didn't do it today. Do you realize that? Or completely?
I didn't realize.
You didn't realize. Okay. I mean, things can happen because of nervousness, and you know, the most important thing you missed is that I said that most violinists in this competition could play the violin. They're all talented. So in a way, it's this whole going through to the next round should not be taken too seriously. It's it's always a matter of. It's also about comparing different age groups and all that kind of thing. It's never. It's nothing such as completely fair in life.
Okay.
But I once experienced, competing at a competition where I got out of the first round, and instead of going home, I decided to listen to everybody else and made notes on every other player and analyzed it for 3 months. And I went to another competition and won third prize. And the second prize winner of both competitions was the same person. So obviously that means the standard of the competition was about the same. In one I got out of the first round and in the other one. So a lot of, it's all things in life are luckily relative. Now with you, especially with Mozart, you have a very good style and everything is relaxed. It works very well. I would like to work a little bit more on colors of sound. Mm-hmm. It's in anything. I can feel that there are a lot of different things you want to achieve emotionally. Yeah, but you don't necessarily know how to use the technique of a violin to change colors and all that. So, can you start again? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so that's already enough, yeah. So you've got 3 chords. Yeah, it's a story. And what do you want to do with that story, first of all? I mean, what is something which you have to, whenever you work on Mozart, this is something which is so universal about all instrumental music by Mozart. It's actually an instrumentalized form of operatic music. Almost all of music, apart maybe from some chorals for the mass, then it becomes a sort of what do you call it, spiritual church music. Some of the spiritual church music is true, has nothing to do with opera. But most of his instrumental work, and definitely the violin concerto, belong to those which is about opera. So when you've got an opera, what do you have for every note? You have a
character or
character, yes, and voice, which means text.
text.
It's a text, exactly. So almost anything in opera has a text. Yeah. So, or at least a meaning for the whole sentence. So if this one was the first thing was a sentence, Then what kind of sentence do you imagine for this?
Well, first I thought of something festive.
Yes.
And then something more dampened.
Okay.
And a bit more thoughtful, like, yeah. It's like more, and then.
Okay, fine. Okay. So the first 2 chords you want it to be festive?
Yeah, I mean the first one more than the second one.
Okay, so and the second one, what do you want? Do you want to already change or?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. And then. And then. Okay, so it's like, hello, and then I become very thoughtful. Yeah, something like this.
Weird? I don't
No,
know.
it's fine. It's just a little bit, maybe too much interpretation in 4 bars. But you can do it. But you have to be so obvious in Mozart, whatever you want to do, that it's clear, come out. So if you want to do it that way, can you do already a dynamic difference? You can do more diminuendo then. Try that. Much more diminuendo. exactly. You see, and there's no diminuendo written in the music.
Right.
But if you want to change the character, you've got to do something. I mean, just thinking it's not enough. Yeah. I was just saying before, especially with Viennese music, you've got, if you want to reduce sound, you can reduce the speed of the bow. You can reduce the pressure or the weight. What else can you do? Yes. Okay, 3, you can go nearer to the fingerboard. And what's the 4th way?
I guess the left hand?
No, right hand. There's one very, very, very important. This is what you missed, you see? But
Yes,
you can.
I should have.
It's okay. So it's only it can be explained in a few seconds.
Okay.
It's reducing the hair.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And this is, everybody, if you ask a young violinist, how can you reduce the sound making a piano? I always get 3 answers. Very rarely do I get the 4th answer, which they forget about. But of course, when I tell them, it's like, oh yeah, of course, I know. It's reducing hair, you know? So if you do... It's basically... Then it changes color. I personally, if I would play that concerto, wouldn't change color yet in the first 4 bars. Oh, okay. But I would make it a little bit more festive for the entire entry. Okay. But it doesn't matter. But it just that sort of thing. It can be even more different. Think of let's do the development. We're going to sad. Yeah, can you play from there? Yeah. Okay, fine. That's good. It's certainly at a very high level. It's not boring or anything like that. But you play the twice. What do you want to achieve with that? And do you want twice same, or do you want the second one differently?
Yes, I tried, but
yeah.
So basically, I tried to do, and then the second time.
Okay. This. To make expressions in music, it can also work to say, okay, first time I'm going to do a crescendo, second time I'm going to diminuendo and all this. But this is still a technical way of thinking. Yeah. So what do you want to do emotionally?
Well, I try to give more the second time, basically, direction to the more mad part. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. But try to think of a text. What is this, Is that a complaining or is it?
Yeah,
Okay, just find me a good text for complaining.
Okay. Oh man, it's so hot.
It's so hot. Okay, it's so hot, Okay, fine. Anything like that. And then the second time, do you say the same thing or do you say something else?
I think I'm saying something else.
Okay, well, yeah. It could be whatever it is, but or it could be first one. It could actually be angry. It could be the man in the house. And it's like, what's happened with the air conditioning? It's hot. And then somebody, apologizes. I'm sorry, I forgot, I'm sorry. And then suddenly you feel, oh, maybe I was a little bit too over the top, just over somebody forgetting to switch on the air conditioning. So you say like, okay, I'm sorry. Whatever it is, but it can make things much more, in music, it's always, necessary to find a little bit more exaggeration, which gives the extra color, and with Mozart, on one hand is the style thing. When you play, actually, I heard an accent on your F sharp, a little bit. If that is intentional, it's fine, But the other thing with Mozart is always this text, yeah. So when you've got like an this is a tirum, parum, cara. You know, this, you need a word for it. Like, I don't know, it could be my dear or something, you know. I mean, in fact, if it was in English, my dear, you know, my dear, it would be, then you can play toti, because it's my dear. Whereas if it was German, if Liebling, you know, then it's a diminuendo, yeah? And most of the music is Italian, so it could be cara. Cara means darling in Italian. So cara, you know, it's a bit diminuendo. So the sort of the style of the music goes always with a text, which you would imagine with it. But yeah, just try again the middle part. Very nice, very nice. Good. Fine, stop some more. Okay. In Masterclass, it's very often, and this is very rightly so, that most students bring their best piece. I mean, in general, you know, I always liked the way you played Mozart. So, you know, when I asked because I like teaching Mozart, and I asked somebody to play the Mozart in my Masterclass, you know, they assigned obviously somebody who plays Mozart. If somebody plays Mozart not in style, and they participate, and of course it's even easier to teach a lot about Mozart and style. In your case, most of the stylistic issues, you know, is absolutely correct. It's already very beautiful. So you know, there's no point in correcting things which work. In other words, with you, we can already talk about extremely high level development of, you know, musical interpretation of that, which is good for you. So I thought the first two phrases went extremely beautifully. But you've got where's the transition to C major? Yeah, exactly. So you've got basically the whole thing was D minor, the music, and it's then suddenly C major. Yeah. So it's already not bad what you're doing, but what we want something to get this extreme revelation of difference, you know. So something was wrong, because this is when you're talking about it's too hot, and this is the moment where the air conditioning starts working. It's like suddenly this cool breeze, like suddenly it's cool. It's no longer hot, you know. So, you know, it's still hot, you know, and then suddenly, it's cool. Or you got the delivery of ice cream. Well, you know, it doesn't matter what it is, but it changed. It was before the life was horrible. It was hot, the air conditioning is broke, and you know, your husband forgot to switch it or repair it or whatever. You know, it doesn't matter. You're upset, yeah? This, I mean, could be, or it could be sad or upset. So if it is the contents of the story, and it really doesn't matter what the story is, you know. But with Mozart, you always need a story, and if you have a story in your mind and then start practicing and organizing it, it will always be interesting to listen to. And going back again to the competition, overall. Because everybody played the violin so damn well in this competition, you know, we as a juror at some point had to even stop thinking, who is the better violinist, but whose interpretation is more interesting, And even then, this is purely subjective, what somebody finds interesting. It's like a conversation or whose speech is more interesting and all that. So I would never claim to be right or wrong about anything, but still, making music interesting is obviously something which is a big issue for all young artists. And so, yeah, with this imagining story, okay, so just play it again, thinking it was hot, and it's still hot actually because of this light. Yeah. But just imagine as you play the C major part, from the problem is solved, and then suddenly you smile and everything is fantastic. Yeah? And then and then smile. Maybe even more exciting, when you're first you smile, everything is good, and then you even go out to your friend, and sort of embrace him like, it's fantastic, you repaired my air conditioner, anything like this. Okay, let's try again, yeah? No. Okay, that's good, yeah. Can you play a little bit of the cadenza because we have 5 more minutes? Okay. Okay, thank you. With this cadenza, can you try to play it again, not using everything full bow?
Okay.
It's too much again, it's okay. Very good. Yeah, actually, this is the other thing which it's very interesting because the question was about how to make music interesting, and already by deciding for every note you study of any piece, any repertoire, to even think about when I'm going to use a faster bow, when I'm going to use a slow bow, that can also make it much more sophisticated sounding. And even that little difference you did, made your performance sound more three-dimensional. Yeah. One little other thing, although your technique works in general quite well. You're not stiff most of the time. At the moment, one other general technique thing which applies to you, but it applies to many violinists, is it's about the articulation of the left hand. And at the moment, it works very well for you, but there's some people, musicians who seem to have a very relaxed left hand, but they have a. Can you hear the hit on the fingerboard? It depends on the piece. You know, when you've got very slow, if you're playing Méditation de Taille or something like that, you know, you shouldn't play. You know, you don't want to hear any of this click. But when you're playing anything, including Mozart, you know, like. It's nice to have this a little extra articulation from your left hand. And at the moment you are playing very well, but it's you're just pressing down the left hand. And the difference between it's about the release after you hit the note. And this is you can just practice. Can you just practice? Yeah. And I mean, I will not spend too much on this, but you know, it's like when you're playing tennis. It's impossible to hit the ball like this, right?
Right.
So what do you do before you hit the ball?
I don't know the word in English.
English, it's retake.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's retake. And actually, this was some observation I made when you watched like the video of all the great violinists. And you know, my left hand is by no means fantastic, but if you look at all the fantastic violinists, you know, I mean, from Heifetz onwards, who have a fantastic left hand, they always, when they play something virtuosic, have a little retake in their motion. So. So the finger goes up before it goes down, a little bit. I'm sure it's the same for the piano, no? Yeah, exactly. And if you don't have a retake, and this is a general thing, you can just put it in your head, you know, you're generally a very good violinist, you know, there's nothing majorly wrong or anything like that. But if I was going to comment your left hand, I thought some of this retake motion for the fast could be even better. That you don't end up playing just pressing down from wherever the finger is, but going upwards before. And there are exercises like you know, there are exercises to do the retake. But this is something I would keep in mind.
Will do.
Anyway, thank you very much. You're beautiful violinist. Thank you. All right, next one is Yes, I know that. Well, 5 till after, because I spoke of 10 minutes on my own, so everybody gets 25 minutes. Yes. Hello, konnichiwa. I can also speak Japanese with this gentleman, but I won't, because you speak English.
Yes, I do.
He goes to school in England.
Yes.
Right. Okay, and everybody else doesn't speak Japanese, so. Thank you. Your name is Kyota?
Kyota, yes.
Yeah. Kyota is going to play the first sonata by Beethoven.
So we haven't played together yet.
You haven't? Okay, well.
It's our rehearsal.
That's right. Continue. That's very similar. Bravo. In general, it's very, very good. Again, because you were not here before, I can only repeat that at this competition we have a pre-selection, and almost every candidate is a good violinist, very good violinist, and it was very difficult for the jury to have to reduce numbers each round. It's almost not fair, and especially as you prepared so many different works and you cannot play all of them. Bad luck. But it's also a lot to do with luck, and I competed once in a competition where I was kicked out of the first round, and only 3 months later I won the third prize of another competition, but the second prize winner of both competitions was the same person. So see, that means the standard of the two competitions were not that different. But when you have experience of, not getting what you want, it's the more intelligent approach to life, to instead of, being angry about it, to actually, listen to the colleagues, to the, and see, and I stayed on that competition and listened to everybody else and made notes and, tried to analyze it. Things like that always can be helpful. Now, as regard to Beethoven, it's very nice. I would like to not go into small details of this phrase and that phrase because that takes too long, and this is an open general masterclass. So the first thing I want to talk about is the usage of your vibrato. In general, you have a good vibrato and you use it more or less correctly, but still I don't think you're completely aware of everything you're doing. And some things which, where was it? Oh yeah, bum, 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 in the development, and then dum, bum, chum, chum. Are you aware of the fact that the octave you played without or almost no vibrato, and you did a huge amount of vibrato on the E?
Yeah.
You're aware of it. Did you want it like that?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but?
It's not something that I minded too much.
Oh, you didn't mind doing it, yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, this is just one example, but I think you could use your vibrato much more effectively and more beautiful to make the, and also the general impression I get to listening to this, it's very nice, but you don't get the beautiful line of the whole piece. And I thought that a lot of it to do with is that because some notes, stick out because of either the right hand or the left hand. Can you try the beginning again? Try to be a little more, because the Beethoven sonata, this is especially early Beethoven like that. It's a very classic building. It's like a beautiful old building which is symmetrical. Like could be a church, could be a hotel or anything like that, which have a structure. It's this kind of music. It's not extremely, avant-garde and or overly emotional or something. It's actually it's a stylistic architecture, So try it. Now, where does this piano start in the music?
On my last note of the first.
Yeah.
This.
Yeah. And who does the piano tune? Piano starts
The
it.
piano.
Yeah. It's you make something there which disrupts the music a lot. It's like don diddle-dum, ba-da-dum. And it's like as if the third beat was the piano, but the third beat is only the continuation of the piano, which is actually on the first beat on the piano. Yeah, try again. Just be aware of that. So that one problem is much better. The other thing is, I know there are dots, right? But the beginning, I mean, there are dots, but what is the harmonic movement? It goes up and down, right? Yeah. It just makes still a little bit of a violinistic approach, I would call it. You know, you're only thinking about the violin. Think of Beethoven, not so much of the violin with a piece like that, you know. Just try one more time and just think of, it's too much violin, you know, I play this is the note and short, and then come piano, I will. It's more, yeah. For me, it sounds extremely much better.
Yeah.
Do you feel that? What do you think?
Yeah.
It was different, no? And sometimes, you know, things like that, and that could be the difference between getting out of the first round and getting into the, you know, because it's music it's about making people go like, oh, I see. This is how the piece goes. You see, if you somehow manage to play, and the audience goes like, oh, I see. Oh, I understand. Now that's what Beethoven wanted. This is the emotional reaction you want to create. And not, oh, he plays the violin really well. Oh, yeah, it's very in tune. Oh, yeah, it's a big sound. Okay, very good. Yeah, you know, and then you sit there for half an hour. You know, you don't need half an hour to know he's a good violinist. You need 2 minutes to have a good sound, perfect intonation. If you have a piece like Paganini, you know, half a Paganini caprice can show everything what you can do on the violin. Okay, it's also good, and you need to know that. But that's one thing. But the other thing is, you know, if you have a whole concert, 2 hours or whatever, you know, you want people to say, oh, what comes next? You know, it's like telling a story. It's really like giving a speech, and you know, it's not about how well you speak the language. And there's some people, it's a good analogy, there's some people who don't speak English well, but they give a speech, so they're with a lot of mistakes in the language, but the story they are telling is so interesting, so everybody is completely fascinated. And then come the next person, you know, perfect pronunciation, Oxford pronunciation, you know, everything. But then the story he's telling, you know, is kind of boring, yeah? So it's exactly the same thing. But of course, before you be able to tell a story, you need to speak English. I mean, if you don't speak English at all, then you cannot be as interesting as you want. You cannot communicate. And also, we don't want, you know, mistakes all the time. But once you have done a certain amount, yes, it's just a story you tell. What was very, very nice. Can you do now the middle part? Ti-ta, ti-ta. Yeah, with a new storytelling attitude. Very nice. No. Yeah, okay. So here, you know, the first piano was really beautiful. Yeah, because here, until now, you had this Beethovenian story of like, I'm here, you know, my name is Ludwig, you know, and then from here, suddenly, like, maybe it's different, you know, it's this sort of a curiosity. Am I really Beethoven? Yes, I am. Chum, chum. And there's no question that with these two notes, pam, pam, it's the first note which is the one to be accented. It's not da, da, but rum, pam, you know, I got it, yeah, so I understood it, you know. So, can you make a little more diminuendo and really more vibrato on the octave? Hum, pam. So, middle part again. Okay. Good. Okay, now here, this is there are quite a lot of parallels with this piece and this part with Mozart as well. We've got, and that's also about development. I think with Mozart's music, there's always like a story. With some other people's music, it's maybe not as much story all the time. But normally in the sonata form, you've got the development. So you've got the exposition, which is sort of introducing the first for the first time how the piece sounds like, and then there's the recapitulation. This is when it comes back to the first story, and this is something human. When you want to hear a story, it's always good to recapitulate. To tell the once more the same, you know. So it's like at the beginning of the speech, you know, I don't know, whatever it is. No, I'm a communist, you know, and everybody should have the same amount of money. I don't know, whatever, that is the statement. Then you explain why, and then at the end, you come back to saying, yes, you know, you see, now I explained all the reasons why I believe that, blah, blah, blah. So you say exactly the same thing as the beginning. And that way, the statement, whatever it is, becomes, I'm not a communist. This was just an example. So, you know, it becomes more clear. So you have got the beginning and you've got the end. And the middle part, which is the development, it's sort of dealing with the themes of the beginning and make some more discussions and so on. So it has to be particularly interesting. And so we go tin tararam tiram tirararam taram. So and in musical terms, being interesting, it means it's a lot of modulation. So the key changes in this case every 4 bars, and you need to assign a bit more a character to each of these 4-bar tunes. So can you just give me like 4 different adjectives for these? So tin tarara, this is the first one, is F major.
Like kind.
Kind, okay, so you start with kindness and then tiraralon. It goes into D minor, right?
Yeah, I'm worried.
Worried, okay. So first kind and worried. Next one. G minor is next, no? No. Yeah.
Was that the?
Yes, the first, that's still D minor, and the next one? B flat major is the next one. And then becomes D minor. G minor. But it's D major, and then a B flat major becomes G minor. It doesn't really matter the names of the keys, but it's the emotional thing, yeah? You need to try again. And just make sure that each of these have a different emotion.
Right, okay.
Yeah, okay. it's much better already. It's much better. So it's if you can try one more time, and so now I can feel inside that you have different emotions for each one. And in this case, it's abstract music. It's not as much as Mozart, so I don't think it's necessary to find a story for every bar. It could be an abstract feeling, you know, like it could be like this could be a little bit worried. It sounds very good. A bit worried. Oh, maybe it's not that bad after all. You know, I worry too much. You know, everything is maybe okay. So it could be just small differences. But the only problem is that now you have got 100 people or 200 people or 500 people in the audience, and you want all of them to feel what you feel. Okay. So and that's the problem. You know, if you look at the movie, and you see all these actors act, and you think they act a certain scene from life, right? But let's say if you had an actor at home privately, they actually, you know, if actor fights with his friend or with her husband or whatever on stage, you know, in the movie, they do it in a certain way. They don't do it exactly the same way at home because it will be over the top. The emotion will be too, yeah, exactly. But you are a stage actor. Every violinist is a stage actor, and so you have a certain emotion you find, and you must exaggerate it a little bit so that everybody in the audience, most of them who are not musicians, will still feel your emotion. So try, and in order to do that, this I can maybe show you. You have to use your technique. I mean, this is very high-level stuff. You know, you're excellent violinist. So that's why we're talking about this kind of details. And this is also general. You can apply this kind of thing to anything you do. But so you've got so the first one, you want to be sort of, you know, not worried and happy. Okay. So in order to get that, you want probably a bright kind of sound. To get a bright sound, if you make the vibrato a little bit narrower and faster, this is more like a bright, you know, because if you have a vibrato slower, it sounds a bit more worried or whatever you call it. So try the first one and then, and then come the D minor part, which is the worried part, you know. Here, if you have the, you know, try to the A string maybe, and slower vibrato. So by already changing the tempo, the speed of the vibrato, you can exaggerate what you wanted to do. Okay, one more time from there. Da-da-dee-da-dee-da-da. If you work along that lines, you can do it yourself. You know, you're very intelligent. You know what. You know, so I have no worries that it will become much better. For you, again, also, I think your left hand is not quite free enough. With you, I would like to actually spend the last 3 minutes or 4 doing a proper exercise with the left hand. Can you just do? So, right. Now, first of all, the most important thing about any decent left-hand technique is try to for any note you play in one position to have the position the same. So to move as little as possible, yeah? So that the worst case is when if you have to, for every note, move the hand. So really keep that still, yeah? And try to do as much retake as possible before you hit the note. So a little bit up and down. It's like chuk, chuk,
Yeah.
chuk, okay? Okay, so wait. When I see your finger, it's like dee ra, dee ra, dee ra. It just goes down instead of da dee ra, da dee ra, dee. You know what I mean? If this was your finger.
Okay. Yeah.
It really makes a difference because it's like either this is just down and up, and you see, when I do it, it's like da-dang, da-dang, da-dang. It goes up first, and yours is just down. So from here, up, down, up, down. Just the third finger is enough for the start finger. Okay, first of all, what you do is, sorry, I should do this so that you can see. What you do is already, you take it off so high that from there it's impossible to do another retake. So just take 1 centimeters up, and then, so that dee ra, dee ra, dee ra, dee ra. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. So just up a little bit. Yeah. No. Yes. Yes. I learned this exercise from a famous violin professor called Michel Schwalbe. He died already about 10 years ago, or even, and he was the concertmaster of the Berlin Philharmonic under Karajan. He had an incredible left-hand technique, and I had the privilege of studying with him just for 1 year. And I said, I want to know your secret. What's so great about your left hand? My left hand was never really good, and even after studying with him, you know, this is, if anything, I had better training with my right hand in my life. So I mean, no. So I still not great, but still, one thing he taught me was this exercise, and at least whatever my left hand level was at, after learning with him and doing these exercises every day for a while, it went up, you know, at least 50% in the left-hand technique. So, and again, these are good, easy things to do because you can do, and you don't need to change anything. It's not that you have to practice the entire Tchaikovsky concerto with every note with a retake, you know. No. All you need to do is spend a few minutes every day doing this kind of exercise, so that, and by pure habit, after a while, you know, your hand gets used to this, and then when you play a piece, but with your left hand at the moment, it does not have great articulation, and that kind of thing might help.
Yeah.
But thank you very much. You're great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Last candidate. Hello. Do you speak English? Yeah. Yes. Where do you live?
New Jersey.
In New Jersey. Okay, well, no problem. You speak better English than me then. What are you going to play for me?
Key A2 number 3.
Okay, great. Thank you. So no pianist. What's your name?
Cecilia.
Cecilia, you were a junior. don't know if you were there when I said again how high the level is of this competition and that everyone can play the fiddle very well. And yeah, I feel extremely sorry for every candidate who didn't go through to the next round because they all deserve to play, whatever they prepared and so on. And certainly nobody did not go through because they didn't play the violin well. Actually, because everybody played the violin well, it just becomes also a matter of taste and all that. But anyway, please. So this is from the Vinyatskis. She played in the first round, the Etude Caprice. Number 3 you played, right? When I listen to this, the first impression I get is that, of course, it's an etude in legato. Okay, so it's not spiccato, it's not staccato, but it's still music. And there's an expression: music always breathes. Okay, and why is that? Why do you think music breathes?
Because breathing is a part of music.
Why is it part of music?
Because it gives like flow.
It gives a flow. That's not a good explanation.
So if you read, then when you go on to the next phrase, like makes more sense.
Yeah. No. Look. Music, in the origin of music for human beings. Yeah. There's only two things. It either is a song, when the monkeys started singing, monkeys became human beings. Before they were only ook, 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 whatever, and then they became human beings, and they said, I could actually not, instead of just say ook, ook, they could hold a note, or they can take a text, and then, like, I love you, they can sing about something. Okay, so it's song, or the other time human beings after they developed from monkeys into human beings, when they started working, you know, they're doing some work and in the fields, whatever, you know, and then they decided, oh, when you actually do it in rhythm, it's a dance. So it's a basic dance rhythm. Maybe they got some guy who would take the drums, you know, like dun 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 dun, and everybody would like carry stones, you know, in the dun 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 dun, give them another stone. How they build the pyramids in Egypt or whatever, you know, it's very possible. We don't know, but somebody was playing drums while this was happening, because if you have drums and have certain regular movements and you move the stones, it's easier. Okay. Anyway, so it's like movement, dance music, percussive music. This is one thing. But again, this is breathing as well, because you know, when you've got drums, it's for moving, and every movement, the human needs to breathe. When you're singing, you definitely need to breathe, because when they say, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you very much, somebody, okay. And at the moment, my entire first impression when I hear this, it's like this, you know, it's like, you just breathe out, you don't breathe in. Try with breathing in. And you know, you have to decide when you breathe in the music. Okay. Okay, fine. So where do you breathe until then? Tell me.
Here.
Here, okay. Can you exaggerate a little bit the breathing now? You know, you don't have to do it then at the end, but just really stop. You know, you can even breathe together. You really breathe with your mouth as well. Yeah, so just play. Okay, here. And also the other thing is, of course, with a bow, you can theoretically play forever. But when you're listening to music, yeah, and you if you continue like this, the person who is listening feels uncomfortable. So you see, you've got all this long line and so on here, and it comes back to piano. It feels so much more comfortable to hear to your music when you take a little time here. And actually, even between the notes, you don't need to do legato. The legato is until this note. Just stop there almost. Can you play here somewhere? Hey, where you are? Wait. Yeah, can you just make a break, make a comma. Yeah, can you lift the bow? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so this is the first thing, you know. I mean, it doesn't matter where you do it, but if you never lift the bow for a long time, and the other thing is, it's also a bit of a technical thing, but at the moment you have to. I can't play this piece because I haven't played it, but you have the tendency to have the same weight all the time, and always there. You know, it's like if there was a weight, you know, so if it was singing, it's like, hello, I'm singing, it's always this. And, when it says, you have a line of notes and it says piano, there's absolutely no guarantee that every note has to be the same volume. You know, if it, and when you have computer music, when you have a keyboard and you play on the keyboard on a certain dynamic, then every note is exactly the same. And it's perfect in a way, yes, but if you hear music made from keyboard, you get ill. I mean, I don't get, you know, I get ill, but it feels very uncomfortable because it doesn't breathe. And every note is exactly the same volume, yeah? So I somehow am trying to help you to get your music closer to human singing. When you go to the opera house and, you know, opera singer sings and aria is in piano, I can guarantee you is that every note he or she sings has a different volume, you know, because it has emotion, it has motion, and it has text as well. So when you have text, you know, and you know you sing "I love you," the l has a different articulation than the o, and you know all that. So it's impossible for every note. With music, piano or the violin, it's theoretically possible to be very similar to a synthesizer, to a computer, but that's not the goal. The goal is to sound more similar to the singer. Okay, and in your case, I just feel it's so sticky. You know, it's always there. Just try to. And the other thing is also the sound production. You have a big sound, no doubt about it, but there's two different kinds of projecting sound. The one kind of sound is this dense sound. Do you know the word dense? You know when it's something is, yeah. And then you've got you've got this airy, light sound. And very interestingly, the very light this kind of light sound can also actually, it's very interesting, even bad acoustics, can also travel very far. Because it's a different, this kind of sound, it's under the ear, here, when near the instrument is much, much louder. But when you go in a big hole at the back, it's not that much louder. And depending on the acoustics, you know, the light one can also carry. So try to be a bit more, play from the beginning and try to give a little more air into the sound as well, besides the breathing between the phrases. Okay? Take time. Oh. Now, pom, pom. Oh, good. Now, king, color change. Pom, 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 ching. Now, wait. Exactly. No, wait. This is for the first time piano. Can you make a much more here and lighter, you know, up? Yeah, when you want to, from here, from the piano. This is already getting much more towards the sort of thing I like. I don't know if you like it, you know, of course, everybody, you have to like it, you know, but do you understand what I'm talking about a little bit? Or do you think I'm being crazy?
I understand.
You understand? Really? Well, okay. Yeah. So basically, and the other thing is, this job, of being a violinist, to being a soloist, being on stage and all that. As I said, it's a stage job, yeah. And do you think actors can become great actors when they're shy? I mean, no. Yes. I mean, great people who have a shy nature as a human being can become great actors. Yes. It's not that only extremely extrovert people by nature can become great actors. But when a shy person becomes an actor, he has to learn, or he or she has to learn also, when necessary, to act extrovertly. Okay? And in fact, somebody who is originally shy and then learns how to be extrovert might become even the better actor because he has both aspects, the extrovert side and the introvert side. Whereas somebody who is extrovert from the start maybe has a difficulty learning how to play a character which is very introvert or shy. But fact is that you have to play music on stage, and I just feel that, you need to be a little more open up in your, presentation or whatever, because it's a little bit too much focus on the violin and too little focus on telling a story using the violin. You need both aspects. Of course you need the violin, you need to know how to play the violin, you need to learn how the violin. And have you been to the opera? Not really? Yeah. I mean, you don't need to go to a long, complicated opera, but go to one opera production, or operetta, it doesn't matter whatever, but I feel that if you get influence from different, or a musical, whatever you hear, you can get more ideas how to present your music, playing the violin. You can continue doing exactly the same thing as before, but by having this kind of experiences in life, it will change automatically. That's the good thing about it, You don't need to do much. You just need to experience things, and the more human beings, and that's normal, because if you go to a concert of a young conductor or an old conductor, normally the older conductor is more interesting because he has a lot of life experience, and then he has a greater range of emotions he can share with the audience. And the other thing I wanted to just say just before you leave, because you're playing it very well, but it's not 100% clean. And I have the feeling when you practice this, you're not practicing it quite correctly in sense of, because I'm convinced you practice a lot, right? Yes, yeah, sure. But do you realize that with practicing the violin, I'm famous for practicing very little, which is not good. I practice too little. But any phrase you play, so many young musicians, not only you, everybody, in fact, makes the mistake of trying a passage, and if it doesn't work, okay, maybe they do it a little bit slowly, but they play it again. And let's say it's a shift, and again you miss. Then they try again, it misses again. And they call that practice. Okay. Now, if you play 3 times one phrase, not perfectly, this is much worse than not practicing at all. Because your hand, there's this famous hand memory. Yeah? Your hand is most likely going to do exactly the same thing as what you have done as many times. So when you have one phrase, and then one phrase you've played it 4 times out of tune and twice in tune, in the concert you've got like a 4-to-2 chance that it will be out of tune. Even if the 2 in tune ones were the last attempts. So if you have done 4 times wrongly and then 2 times correctly, and then you say, yoo-hoo, I got it, I understood, I made it, and then go to the concert, it will be most likely like the 4 first times when you did it wrongly. Because it's the hand as a habit. Okay, so you need to do it correctly much more often than so if you played a tune 4 times out of tune, a passage 4 times out of tune, you have to play it maybe 40 times in tune to make it work at the concert, because you have to get rid of that habit. So, what do I mean with this? So that means whenever you have, just give me one bar. This will be enough. The last thing I will do before I release you into beautiful, warm, summery Geneva, and that you enjoy this city, is just give me one passage which you think it's difficult. One bar. This one. Play this bar. Okay, was it perfect? Yes? Okay, well, it was not bad, but the top two notes was not very in tune. It was just about. Okay, so just practice this one bar for me now, the right way. Just one bar. How do you do it? Stop. So, you already played these two top notes, at least one wrong each. What you need to do, I teach you. I've never played this piece before, okay? What is the top note, actually? Is it a... This is the top note, yeah? Okay, so... and then A. I never played this piece, but you see, I'm trying to avoid ever playing any note out of tune. So before it goes out of tune, go on, and then I stop, and then I figure out where's the right position for this finger. Is it here? Is it here? And once I know it's here, then I play. Okay? So that means today I've played this passage once, 3 times or 4 times or maybe 5 times slower than it should be, but at least I read the right notes, I know it's an A, and I've played it once or twice in tune. Okay? Then I come back to it tomorrow morning and I go again and do a bit. And then I also say, the relationship of these 4 notes. Because my finger are a little bit bigger than yours, I realize because of this half note, it's not as bad as Perlman, his finger's even much bigger, but even I need to actually release that one note, be able to play the other one in tune. So, and then I have to lift that finger, that third finger, to be able to play the next note in tune and so on. So it's just figuring out. And you can do most of that figuring out even without a bow. You can just, sit like, okay, this is with pizzicato. And this is how the hand position goes. Then then I put the violin away, make myself a cup of coffee. Here's my coffee. And I get like, okay, so it's I have to take this finger off, it's about this distance. It's about the finger has to learn what you want to do. The coffee, and then put the... This kind of thing, I tell you, I guarantee you, is more effective than playing it normal a few times until it's correct. And I'm like, so many times you play 10 times, the first 8 times not perfect, and 9th and 10th time, finally it's perfect. It's like, great, I did a lot of practice today. No, what you did is you created 8 bad habits against 2 good habits. It's a -6 for the next day. You have 6 times, minus 6 is the chances that you play tune the first time the next day, it gets lowered by the factor of 6 against 2, okay? With that piece of advice, I will release you, but thank you very much. You're wonderful. Very good. Okay, end of masterclass. Exactly 2 minutes before 6 o'clock. I hope the television people are happy that I kept it in time. Should I keep talking for 2 minutes, or is it okay? Can I finish? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. What I can do, because there were a few minutes, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer. Or also privately after. Don't do it in public. No? Okay, then we do it privately. If you can come to me and ask me anything you want. Thank you.